Welcome into another edition of the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show. It is great to be here with all of you on this nice Friday. It is 12 o'clock here on the East Coast, and we have a lot to go through today, a lot to recap on as well, including some sports starting to bring their return back, but obviously retaining the attention in the right direction. But with that being said, bringing in Gavin, Tony. Now, Gavin, it's great to be here with you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm happy to be here again. Happy to keep the conversation going, no matter what we talk about sports or equality, everything along those lines. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, yesterday we had for those who may or may not see it, and me and Zach, we urge you to go see it. We had a great talk yesterday. No sports. We mentioned one, and we made it back page news because it really was. Phillies won yesterday. Oh well, who cares? Or excuse me, 2 days ago, Phillies won. That's back page news. Oh well, it's whatever. The headline, the real talk in the world going on right now is the social inequality and injustice going on in America. And for those who are sleeping under a rock, or for those that continue to ignore it, how could you ignore it? Zach, it's everywhere. In the workplace, in the judicial system, or when it comes to justice, accountability is not there. There's been a lot of wrongdoings going on in this world, and people tend to ignore it. But Zach, yesterday was a great show. We put it out there. We had one of those talks where we encourage people to have, and we had it live with a whole bunch of others.
No doubt. I mean, anyone who hasn't seen that episode, please go back and watch it. It was the 27th. We talked about this before. I will continue to touch on this personally. We want to encourage and uplift, and today actually marks 57 years since the March on Washington. And I thought I had an opportunity to watch some of the footage this morning. It's part of history, and we can't forget that, how far we as a country have come and how we have to continue to keep moving forward. I say this all the time. You don't say, oh, well, you don't have a race problem in America, but say, oh, look what happened from 57 years ago. It's not 1960 anymore. That's not a good excuse. I mean, we could acknowledge, and we should very much so acknowledge how far, for the Black community and a lot of minorities, how far they've come in this country. It doesn't mean we're done. Just because we have more freedom in this country than a lot of other countries doesn't mean that we're done. We can still become more. The beginning of the Constitution to form a more perfect union. Or I get, like, a lot of people want to give, unfortunately, they want to, give a lot of doubts on the founding fathers. They were slave owners. It's something that's part of this history. And for a lot of people learning about it, it is hard to comprehend. And so back then, yeah, I mean, for them, it didn't cross their minds it was wrong or something like that. It's not necessarily to shame them, but they knew when they wrote the Constitution that it would be a fluid document and that this country would continue to become a more perfect union as the North continued to outlaw slavery. We had an entire war over it, Gavin. Some people argue other things, but we had a whole war over slavery. And as a matter of fact, tons of people in this country that have descended here from Africa and the Caribbean that were slaves in the South fled to the North to help fight that cause under the American flag, not the Confederate flag, the American flag. And when that war was over, it was split forever. And now, as we talked about with our analogy with the 1st and 15 yesterday versus 1st and 10, we were now at this situation where we were both on the football field together. Unfortunately, 5 yards back for a lot of people in this country, and part of that is because of the years of slavery that we had. And so now we're years later in the 1960s. You have Dr. King, you have Malcolm X, you have all these people, Bayard Rustin, who are speaking on the injustices. There was a point in this country, and there still are small areas which truly believe this, which in my opinion is sickening, but it's continuing to be a culture shift that said whites only, right? That said, like, whites only for water fountains and for schools, and segregation. Brown versus the Board of Education and more progress would allow for intersegregated schools. And that's amazing. Gavin, we talk about this all the time. We would have never met each other if it wasn't for that. And we're able to have this opportunity equally. However, some of the backlash still exists. Many people who are able to be in better funded areas in schools where they have that opportunity where it can be almost 1st and 10, at least from the educational standpoint. Those are good. And so there's two things I do want to touch on as I recap my kind of monologue here. There are still people in places like in poorly funded areas where the schools aren't great and they don't have that same opportunity as many other people, which can date back to the days of systemic racism in this country, very much so. No one can deny that. But finally, there's also still a prejudice in this country. I don't have it. Doesn't mean that not everyone has. Just because you have one good encounter with a cop, we say this, Gavin, doesn't make them all good. And
Come
just
on.
because you have one bad encounter with a cop doesn't make them all bad. There is still prejudice in this country. There are still people who won't hire you because you're black. There are still people who pull you over more likely or ask for ID or something along those lines because you're black. Those do exist. It's not a jab at this country. It's not a jab at society, but there's still a cultural element that says for a second, for some reason, people think that's acceptable behavior. Even though the opportunities are more there, doesn't mean that that's what I think is one of the bigger issues. And Gavin, you by all means can disagree and tell me that you think different. I'm all aboard to listen to your mindset on it. But I do personally feel that prejudice is one of the biggest issues in this country. Because without prejudice, if you get pulled over for a busted taillight and if that situation escalates and if it's because of a race-driven thing, that's a huge problem. If you have a busted taillight, you pull it over, you get a citation, you go fix it. Like nobody should be shot. Nothing should ever happen from those lines. And that it's a difficult conversation to have because a culture shift is not one that can be fixed by law. You can make a law, like for example, Brown versus Board of Education. Black and white kids can all go to the same schools. Based on the zip code, I'm more of an opinion for school choice to choose your zip code. But based on right now with the zip code, you go to those schools, and if you're black or white, doesn't matter. You get to go to that same school, whether it's well funded or not. And so, as far as that's concerned, it doesn't mean that a student of color is not going to face racial discrimination or racial profiling in school. If it's by a teacher, I mean, reprimandments need to be there. That's unacceptable. If it's by a student, that needs to be. And we talked before, Gavin. If you don't punish a student for doing something wrong, they're never going to fix it. Some that are young are immature and might, just because when you're younger, you might be a little prejudiced. If you get taught and understand what's going on, you're not going to have those issues continuously. It's part of a culture shift. Again, you can't just vote one person out or in or change one law or legislation. It's about that culture shift. It's about starting local. We talk about this all the time, Gavin. I hear myself repeating it, but those are my personal thoughts as far as some of the biggest issues. And I think we had a really positive conversation yesterday about it. Yeah, we addressed the issues, and we said the media and ESPN, they do enough of that. We're trying to create solutions. We're trying to encourage and uplift. It's still so important. This progress cannot stop. It's like when you're running a business, just because you're making good money doesn't mean you don't want to make more money. Just because we are starting to get more equality doesn't mean that we're done. Absolutely not. I think that we have a long way to go for everybody, for that matter. I mean, right now, I know we're really trying to focus on black lives. This is what the focus is. But unfortunately, in the University of Delaware 2 days ago, a Jewish center was burnt down. And, that's really gut-wrenching for me to read on. We can touch on that later. There's still issues in this country across all spectrums. We are trying to focus right now from Jewish and for a black person, both of us on the show. We want to include everyone in that factor. We got to make sure we're focusing on the right things and making sure that we're achieving progress. And that's my biggest takeaway from our conversation yesterday. And I have confidence we're going to continue to do so.
With a healthy conversation yesterday was a great start. And for those who think, just today we're going to be talking sports, doesn't mean the conversation is over. It sure as hell far from over. We can come on here Monday and have a talk. Me and Zach, we talk a lot off the show. I don't think you guys understand how much talk goes on between us off the show about what's going on in the world. Whenever we see something, I send it to him. I'm like this, and we talk about it. We have a nice long talk, whether it's by call, by text, anything. For me yesterday, Zach, what you said is spot on. It's perfect. And for me, I feel as a black man, the racial biasness going on in this country and silenceness is also a really big problem. There was on my feed, I see people making, or standing up for Kyle Rittenhouse. For those who may or may not know, it's a little 17-year-old boy that from Illinois. Him and his mom drove all to Illinois and went all to Kenosha, Wisconsin, where he's got out with an AR-15 and killed 2 innocent protesters that just wanted justice. Not only did the cops could have done something about it, they gave this man water, food. They said they're glad he is here. We cannot let stuff like this go on. And people wonder why the black community is upset. This kid went home. They drove all the way back home, Zach. They drove all the way back to Illinois and then got arrested. But damn well there was cops in that protest. Why don't you do something about it? He walked right by y'all. He said, thank you. They said, we're glad you're here. The hell is that? Role reverse, Zach. If I were to do that, do you think I'll be sitting here today, regardless of before he even get arrested? If a black man were to do what that kid did, he would have been shot on sight. The problem with racial biasness and not being held accountability is disgusting in this country. It's it's the fact that you can kill, and it was illegal for him to
Yeah,
carry those. Thank you.
big
It
one.
was it was also the fact that when a cop kills an innocent black man, and I'm not gonna call these mishaps, I'm calling these murders. When a cop murders an innocent black man, right? Mr. Floyd kneed his neck for over 8 minutes and 46 seconds. But it's not it's about that, but it's also the fact they went home for 4 straight days, waking up every morning for the 4 days, woke up every morning, ate breakfast with their family when they should have been in jail. And Zach and I talked to our guests about this too. It's not about being killed. It's about we're being filmed now. This is not okay. This is not all right. If you think watching innocent black people die on the internet is normal, the hell, what are y'all watching? Because I don't want to see that. The fact, Zach, and also too, and one thing to protect your own home, but he crossed state line. That's true. He crossed state line. So Zach, I'm gonna say this, and then and we go from there. What's been going on in this country? By the way, we still haven't got justice for Breonna Taylor. I don't know how much. I don't know how many times we got to keep asking for it. We shouldn't have to. He did it. They did it. 3 officers murdered this young lady in her own house while she was sleeping, and that's upsetting to me because Zach, we all sleep. I sleep, you sleep, everyone sleeps. But for 3 people to barge in your house and without any warrant, no knock warrant, that's BS. Don't do that. Don't do that. And I have people over here saying, well, he fired back. Zach, if someone were to break in your house at night, you didn't know who the hell it was, wouldn't you fire back too? Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? That's the point we're gonna get at. But what I mean by it's been going on for too long, and these names, these list of names, which I know, ladies and gentlemen, I know it goes deeper than that. But in my lifetime, you cannot forget about the Eric Gardners, the Freddie Grays, Trayvon Martin. You can't forget about, Ahmaud Arbery. You can't forget about Mr. Floyd, Mr. Brooks, who I'm deeply sorry I forgot your name yesterday. Mr. Brooks, Aaron Brooks, Miss Taylor, who still can't get her justice, and Mr. Blake. Zach, that's a lot of people's names I read off this list. And that's not even half the damn list that I said. Those are only people that happened in my lifetime that I can recall. And the sad thing is that there's probably many more that you don't even know about. So I'm going to leave it at this. When will it end? How many more until your silenceness, you start speaking? Until your racial unbiasedness becomes open. Your eyes are open. Zach, and my final remarks is this. If you keep making or protecting these guys that do these harmful acts, you're just as bad as them. Whoever is defending Kyle Rittenhouse, you're just as bad as them. Whoever defends the officers that murdered Miss Taylor in her own home at night while she's sleeping, you're just as bad as them. Whoever said that the people that Mr. Floyd didn't deserve justice because he was a criminal and this was that does not give you any right to knee on someone's neck for it. You're just as bad as them as well. Silenceness is just as bad. And just because the NBA is going back to playing basketball, just because baseball games are being played today, and just because the NHL is going to start tomorrow, doesn't mean that they're not fed up with this as much as I am. The hell with everyone that agrees with what's going on. The hell with everyone that thinks that this is okay. Zach, this is not okay. And you have a district attorneys who don't see the problem. The district attorney the district attorney in Kentucky is one hard-headed person and one jerk of a person, and you should be stripped of your title effective immediately because you're not doing your job. The district attorney in Wisconsin, where the hell you at? Let's get it going. And the problem is that the reason why, just like the school reference, You gotta set an example. This, or not, excuse me, not example, but you gotta show this is not gonna go down. You keep letting people get killed and not anything happens, and we gotta take to the streets, and people get upset when stuff gets broken and burnt. But I'm sorry, that's called frustration and not being heard. Governor Zach, you brought this to me yesterday. The governor of South Carolina, he had a police reform written, and he took it to what was that?
The senator in Congress.
He took it, and it got denied. Well, guess what? Where the hell are the other governors of the states? Tom Wolf, where you at? Andrew Cuomo, where you at? Gavin Newsom, where you at? All the governors.
They're good at talking. I'm not just. Where's the policy? This is what frustrates me, and I say it all the time. We'll probably get about 4 more minutes in of this before we do shift gears, but this is very important. So if we take extra time, it's fine. But I don't find it funny at all. There's nothing funny about this, but I find it ironic how people are supporting certain people in political positions that are like, oh, they're doing this. Why? Because they talked about it. Like, I'm glad they're talking about it. It's a great thing. But when it comes to what matters most, they don't do a dang thing about it. You want a specific example? I put on my Instagram story yesterday because this frustrates me. I just learned this yesterday. We have Tim Scott, again, the first black congressman voted in South Carolina, the first former Confederate state where a black man was voted to Congress. All right? Political parties aside for once. Yeah, he's a Republican. Political things aside for a minute. He had a police bill. Gavin, before we even knew about this, you said yesterday, de-escalation, right? Better training. There's a lot more in there. Shoot to wound, not to kill. Accountability for not following protocol, and investigation into everything. Those were all in that bill, and it was flat out rejected in the Senate. All right, they called that man, who was a black man, by the way, they called him a token to the Republican Party. People said that. I get it. I get the. I don't want to say Democrat or Republican. This is a human issue. I don't want to put politics in this, but a specific policy that may have not prevented this death that's happening. Jacob Blake did not die, fortunately, but perhaps would be a good starting point. It was not compromised. If it was compromised, they said, okay, we think there's some things in here that aren't great. Let's compromise. But it was flat out rejected in the United States legislature, in Congress, and that's frustrating because there was a bill on the table and it could have been changed. All right. If some people thought that there are certain things in there that weren't thrilled, an opinion post I shared from the Washington Post yesterday talked about this. June 1st, we're all sitting here talking about it. The next week, we're still talking protests. The third week of June, it starts to die down. The week after that, the NBA is debating whether or not they're going to play. July comes, they start playing. Black Lives Matter is written on the court. Say their name is written on the back of their jerseys. And the bill that was shut down wasn't even compromised by anyone, Republican or Democrat. Because politics shouldn't matter. We're Americans first. All right? And that bill,
as well.
That was that.
We're people as well.
We're human. We are human first. You're right. Love has no borders, as they say. You want action? Hold your politicians accountable. Hold your athletes accountable. Hold yourself accountable. Don't just talk. The Orlando Magic are speaking with a police chief from Orlando today. All right, I get the disrespect a lot of people are starting to have towards cops, and in some cases, rightfully so. Gavin, we talk about the good cop, bad cop thing every day. We understand this.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, good cops turn bad when they don't say nothing.
Right.
Silence is arguably as bad as the wrongdoing.
Accountability. And so today, the police chief is speaking with the Orlando Magic. That can hopefully have a breakthrough. That could hopefully, again, starting local. Perhaps the state of Florida can go next to making a police reform for what can help, and then perhaps the country. But it's the fact that there was a police reform bill, no matter who the political party or whatever is. The bottom line is a black man who has said before he has been a victim of racial profiling during his young life in this country and still has been, and he's in his 40s now. And this man had a bill on the table because he firsthand said, you know what? A man's neck was knelt on for over 8 minutes because of a counterfeit $20 bill. All right. And he said we need, maybe for once we can put politics aside and we can get something done. They failed us.
Real quick, Zach, because I know we got to guess and we got to get to sports too. But if these damn politicians and governors, right, and district attorneys had brains, because I arguably think they don't, or they had any common sense or human rights or are human anything, Why is every time something goes down, we always look for, it's not look at the athletes. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to them. It's not fair that every time something goes down, I look at LeBron James. I look at Giannis Antetokounmpo. I look at Michael Jordan. I look at all these guys. It's not fair to them. Yes, they have platforms. Yes, they're going to speak on it. But damn it, the weight of the world's shoulders or the black community is on LeBron's shoulders right now. What he said, he is the voice, and the way how I view LeBron James, like, you guys know from basketball standpoint, I'm go debate. That's not the point right now. That's back page news. It's not fair to LeBron James and any of these athletes that what they're saying, that should just be added voices to us. LeBron James should not have to be the guy that has to just speak every time something goes down. And I'm not saying he can't speak. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm saying when you have district attorneys, you have governors, you have all these damn people ahead of him.
People voting down on policy.
Exactly. LeBron is a basketball player in the NBA. He's not no politician. He's not a district attorney. He's not a governor, for Christ's sakes. I think he would make a great president, Zach. I really do. I really think he would. But damn it, when it comes to the time when matters, when you need them, when you need the people ahead with that things to actually make change and do stuff, they don't do it. Ahmaud Arbery, we had to get signatures from Malcolm Jenkins, from LeBron himself, from Tom Brady, who, by the way, who's been really silent right now, which is really irritating me as well. That's really irritating me too. But that's besides the point right now. We got all these guys that have to always come to the defense when in reality, that's cool. They could do that. But in reality as well, that's what a district attorney's for, right? That's what a governor's for, right? That's where all these damn people head. That's what their job's for.
These senators and representatives who have small districts that they're in charge of, they need to listen to them. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do this week. And Gavin, you want to talk about progress? I'm going to look at that bill that was in the Senate. I'm going to look at who voted down on it and what the reasoning was. And we're going to talk. You want to say their names? We got to talk about people who have been victims of police brutality. Let's talk about the people who think it's not a big enough issue to come back to the table. And that's who you need to vote out.
The problem is that you want to bring it up. We're going to be talking for 3 hours straight because there's a lot of people that think there's nothing going on with the world right now, and they're sickening.
Most definitely. Well, thank you everyone for listening to this segment. Again, conversation will continue. Gavin, I'll let you go after this, but we are going to talk about the Flyers and the Phillies coming up next. Gavin, anything else you want to touch on this topic?
It's not over. It's not over. And I stress November, Zach. We both stress November, but real change. We got to look at the people ahead. Zach, you said it. You got to look at the distance turns. You got to look at all these guys. You got to look at the people you're putting in. And then when you get to that, then you look at the head guy that's letting all this go.
That's how you start. You start local. You build your way up. Again, folks, we're not done this discussion. We're not done with action. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back right after this. We are now offering a new product on our Teespring. Wear a mask in public. We are now supporting a custom-designed mask with our logo on it. Purchase it today, and 10% goes to a foundation of our viewers' choice. It offers a full nose and mouth coverage, single-sided print, includes 2 2-inch elastic ear loops, non-medical grade product, and finally, $1 from every mask sale is donated to a nonprofit to feed children in need. Enjoy today's episode. Welcome back. The phone is finally back. I know it's been a little while. All right, we got it picked up. Thank you. No, but all seriousness, again, conversation will continue. With that being said, let's unite with what we can through sports. The Flyers won game 2. I said that it would be an overtime game. I thought it was going to be a very low-scoring game. The Flyers were electric in the first period. They scored 3 straight goals, and the Islanders slowly climbed back. Went to OT a few minutes in. The Flyers hit a game winner. Gavin, they're tied 1-1 after that first game. We thought that this was not going to be a good series. They play tomorrow. They were supposed to play last night due to their planned boycott. Much respect to them for that. They are going to be playing game 3 tomorrow.
First off, Zach, it's good to hear the rally phone. Need that. For those who may know, that's always my favorite thing. One of my favorite things about Zach's house is the phone. the phone goes off, and no, it's fine. But the Flyers, you were right, Zach. I knew they were going to bounce. Like, you and Adam were right, and I told Adam, I said, I have a great feeling about this game. I feel like this game is going to be the game where they come back, they bounce back. They're not going to win, exactly you call it. You said they're not going to win regulation. They're going to need a little more than that. And you're right. Zach, for me, looking at that game the other night, it wasn't the best game we know the Flyers could have. Arguably, I think they squeaked by with a win. I don't consider that was a best game.
Defense is still not there.
The defense is still not there. And the thing about the Islanders, they're a great offensive team. They really are. You can't leave Carter Hart out to dry like that. You cannot do that. That's not fair to him. That's not fair to him at all. But Zach, I think today, or is it today or tomorrow? I think it's tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, game 3.
Game 3.
I think they come out and win, but it's going to be one of those games where you're like, are you serious?
Probably like 2-1 or something like that. The defense needs to help because Carter Hart is doing as much as he can. He can't for so long. I mean, 28 of 31 is pretty good, but a couple of those were really he was on an island, so they have to help him out.
They're gonna have to help him out defensively, and they're going to continue scoring goals. This team, this Islanders team can score goals if needed to. They have a great goal team.
8 in 2 games.
8 in 2 games. They scored 4 back to back. So Zach, we gotta just make sure we're on our top on our A game. We won the round robin. I know Matt, our third member of the show, he thought the round robin was a fluke. He thought that after seeing what he saw versus game 1, he thought this game, the round robin was a fluke, and he thinks they don't deserve to be number 1. Chris, I know Chris. On the other hand, I can't speak for Chris, but I will say this: Chris's optimism was pretty spot on. It's pretty spot on. But Zach, I don't know. This team is just defensively. First was the power plays, and now it's defense. Where are we gonna? When will we be a well-rounded all over the place? I'm not talking Dennis Rodman on defense, but we can't just.
You gotta slow him down. You gotta keep him out of your zone. The puck's been in the Flyers zone way too much for this, and I mean Carter Hart's always on edge, and it's kind of hard to do that for 60 minutes where you're always like, all right, where's the puck at? If they can get it on the other side, put some pressure on the Islanders, and you get started early, you can pretty much be consistent. The offense has played it was the other night, then I got no problem. I think they're going to win, but that's only if they can keep the offense rolling.
The offense got to stay rolling, and you got to slow down. You let up 8 goals in the past 2 games. Zach, I know a team that didn't score that many goals in a whole series. So you just got to do better defensively and power plays, stress that, and get some goals and help Carter Hart. That's all you got to do.
You got to outshoot them. Sometimes they pass the puck around too much or one too many times. Sometimes you just got to take the shot.
My friend that plays hockey, he always said, when you pass around too much, you're missing a great opportunity. Sometimes shots that you don't think goes in, like that wouldn't go in, do go in. So you just got to take the shot.
Yeah, no, definitely. So as far as that, we're hoping for them to win. We'll continue with that moving forward. But with that being said, we look forward to seeing the Flyers. We probably will try to get Chris on next week. He was supposed to come on Wednesday. Unfortunately, something did come up. He was not able to, but we got to add him on. We'll hopefully be able to get those both back next week, possibly do another watch along. So stay tuned for some more updates. And Gavin, as far as some other updates, we'll have to continue with the school situation. We're going to figure that out this weekend. So stay tuned for times for next week. But with that being said, I'm unsure if the game is confirmed tonight, but assuming that it is, the Phillies are expected to play today against Atlanta. Again, as always, I love pulling up the MLB standings to take a look at to see where the Phillies are looking situationally. So going into this series, the Phillies are 4 games back of the Braves. The Mets are 4.5 back. Nationals are all the way back 6. The Marlins still only 2 games back, Gavin. They're 1-5 at home and 13-7 on the road. But if the Phillies can take 2 of these games and get up to 3 games back, there's a good chance that they can put themselves in a good situation. We get our optimism all the time, and then the Phillies shut us right down. Gavin, I'm not sure if you've mugged today or not, but
I do not. But I do got something for you.
Let's see what it is.
I got to clean a bit. I got.
Oh wow, we got matching that works. No, so we'll have to. Hopefully, we can see Reese Hoskins is starting to get some more home runs. Is happy to see. So hopefully, this can be a good thing rolling. But the pitching's got to be consistent.
Well, the pitching's got to be consistent. And first, I want to say kudos to Joe Girardi for what he said yesterday. I know he received a lot of hate on Facebook and everything. Talk about threatening to lose them as fans. We don't care. It's a bigger picture. But back to baseball. I think, honestly, the Phillies could get 2 games. Zach, I always stress this. If it's a 4-game series, you got to get the majority. If you're going to split 2, that's fine. But you got to get the majority. Majority, if it's a 4-game series, you got to get 3. If it's a 3-game series, you got to get 2. If it's a 2-game set, try to win both. Zach, that's how I view this 60-game season as. And the Phillies haven't done the worst job. They've kind of been kind of good as of late. But Zach, pitching is going to be key against this offense of Atlanta. They got Marcell Ozuna, Ronald Acuna's back, Ozzie Albies, Freddie Freeman, the new guy Christian. I can't say his last name. I think he's in center field or left field right now. But Zach, Dansby Swanson's turned it on as of late. Their bullpen is somewhat there. You beat them in a game or two in Atlanta last week. So Zach, it's doable.
Do it again.
Do it again. That's all you gotta do. You did it once, you can do it again. It's a little bit harder to do it again the second time, but you can do it.
Yeah, they got some more closers now, so they should be able to do it. They're on a 3-game winning streak. They beat the Braves, beat the Nationals, and beat the Nationals again. Yesterday's game was postponed, but they do have a 3-game series against the Braves, and then a 4-game against the Nationals, and then against the Mets. Gavin, we really should go on a tear right now. This should be the focal point of the season. We're almost halfway done, so we'll have to see what happens.
Well, yeah, and Max Scherzer has not looked good at all. Not one bit. And Pat Corbin gave up a monster shot to Rhys Hoskins. He threw that 60-mile-per-hour curveball that him and Zach Greinke so love. And I think if I was at that, I would love it too. But no, Zach, you got going to run right here. This is the games you got going to run. You swept the Mets. I'm pretty sure you can get 3 games versus Washington. None of the pitchers are great. And Atlanta, you got to get the majority.
No doubt we'll have to see what happens. We do have one more topic here we'll be talking about before we get to our final segment of the day. The Rockets yesterday ran a full-speed 5-on-5 scrimmage, and Russell Westbrook played and looked really good. Gavin, OKC and Houston are tied at 2 apiece. What will this mean for the Rockets and Russell Westbrook's return?
It will mean a lot. Listen, they went small ball, and when they went small ball, they did it for the Russell Westbrook own. Russell Westbrook, when you had Clinton Capella down there, it made it hard for Russell Westbrook to do his job, which is driving to the basket and finishing. So now I think when you got a guy like Russell Westbrook with explosive net, now you're going to get a guy that's going to give you 25 and Harden's going to give you his 30. That's combined to almost 60 points right there. I know my math might be off, ladies and gentlemen, but we start school on Monday, so forgive me. But Zach, you get Russell Westbrook back, I think the series is over now.
Yeah, now we'll see what happens. It's been 2 close games that the Rockets, if they could have closed them out, they would have won. But are they surprising you at all, Gavin, or do you think this is just because of Russell Westbrook's absence or tired or something along those lines?
I think Rockets' bad shooting in the last game ultimately cost them that. Remember, Zach, they come out of halftime, they hit 8 straight threes or 5 straight threes. They don't miss. And then after that, they just go
ice cold.
They just go invincible. They just go missing. I couldn't find their 3-point shooting. So, Zach, it depends. If you're not relying on the 3 ball, that's why you got Russell Westbrook, a guy that's going to get down there and finish. It's going to take the pressure off James Harden more because James Harden was doing his own.
Yeah, no, I mean, James Harden's always been able to make his own shot, and with Chris Paul's injury and all these different things that's went on the past few years, Harden's kind of been on his own at some points in these series. So it's tough. We'll see what happens. There's no Golden State Warriors to knock them out, so we'll see who can do it to them this time.
No, let's see what's going to go. I think they beat the Lakers in 6.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll have to touch on that again later. I'm going to review the NBA schedule here while we continue with the show. But after this, we'll be bringing on our special guest to talk about the Sixers. What went wrong this season? What are some off-season changes that need to be done, both in the front office, obviously the coach has been fired, as well as the players, and will we retain our 2 superstars? All that and more right after this.
Would you like to know how you can support the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show? If so, head down to the comments on our YouTube channel. You will see 2 links there. The first is our Teespring, where you can see a wide variety of apparel products, including our signature product, the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show sweatshirts, offered in a variety of different colors, including gray, navy blue, and more. Finally, we have our Patreon page, where you can become a monthly donation member. 10% of all donations go towards an organization of our viewers' choice. We hope that you enjoyed today's episode, and if you can't donate, that's okay, because you can always share this.
Here right now, and as mentioned, we'll be bringing in DeJuan Williams. We've had you on once before. Thank you so much for joining us again. We look forward to talking a lot today about the Sixers and some more in the basketball world.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's good to be back.
What the? Is that my Zach? Is that my spot? Is that my location?
I mean, it looks like it. You've been in your room the past few days. I don't know.
I don't know. I might have to go down there and see what's going on. I gotta check out my location. Now,
I broke in again. Sorry.
All right. What's going on, Dwight? How you doing?
Good, how you doing?
Good. Go ahead. Z.
Now, good. So we do want to start off here in devastating Sixers fashion. They were swept last week 4-0 by the Boston Celtics. We know Ben Simmons wasn't there, but first of all, the first question I have for you, Dewan, is what are some of your reflections from that series?
Um, it just sucked to see like Joel Embiid, doing everything he could to get us a win or even close to winning, but there's nothing he could because there's nothing he could do because Tobias and everybody else wasn't really being as consistent as they should have been. And I feel like that was like the biggest issue with us getting swept. So I think if Ben Simmons was there, we probably could have won the series or maybe at least take it to 7. But since that wasn't the case, it was a bad fallout for the team.
Well, Dewan, you and I both go through it a lot. We go through a lot of Sixers hate. Sometimes
Too much of it.
it's a little absurd half the time, but and the hate we saw from the anonymous fight, but from the hate that Joel Embiid has been getting recently, do you think Joel Embiid do you think Joel Embiid did all he could? Do you think Joel Embiid could do more? I know I came on the show and said Joel Embiid has to give me 40 for them to have a chance to win, and there was games where he had 30 and 16, 30 and 20. He was doing Joel Embiid things. But I think the lack of Ben Simmons cost him. So, Duan, what do you think?
Well, I think Joel could do more, but I think he did. I think he provided us with a good amount, but it doesn't help when your other max contract player in Tobias Harris is shooting poorly and not playing as well as he should be, not living up to the money he's getting. Same with Al Horford. He did play all right, I guess, but once again, he didn't live up to his money either. So, I think Embiid did what he could, and I'm pretty happy with how he performed this series.
Definitely. Now you point out two of the biggest players or biggest money takers, I'd say, but you also have guys like Josh Richardson, Shake Milton in that starting lineup. So my next question to you is, how do you feel they did in the series, and what does their future look like for Philly?
I think Shake Milton's future is pretty bright. He has a lot of potential. In terms of Josh Richardson, I'm not really a big fan of his because just like Tobias and everybody else, he's not as consistent as he should be. But when he's on, he's on, But I think we could find a better replacement for him.
Well, I think the spacing, you really miss JJ Redick, and that's Brett Brown's fault for making him not feel wanted. He didn't feel wanted or welcome. I think you bring in a guy, Josh Richardson, who's not really a shooter. He's more kind of view him as a defender or a spot up shooter for what you, and the spacing was really off this year. But the one thing I got to ask you is, we talked about Shake Milton. We talked about Shake Milton running point. We talked about Ben Simmons running the floor. We saw it in a few games, but we didn't see Shake Milton do that it factor when he did it. What really got us on the radar of him. Do you think Shake Milton stays at the end after this year?
Yeah, 100%. I just think, the pressure was on him with Simmons' injury. He basically had to carry the load almost in the point guard role. And, I believe this was his first playoff series, if I'm not mistaken. But even if it was or wasn't, like, it's still a lot to manage with your all-star point guard being out for the remainder of the season. So I think he stays next year for sure.
Now, as far as spacing is concerned, what kind of thoughts are with that? As far as with Ben Simmons, he made a few threes this year, obviously, but really didn't put up a jump shot unless it was like 10 feet out with the shot clock winding down, which is what he's done past few years. Do you think that his lack of shooting was part of the spacing issues, or him and Joel weren't surrounded correctly by the right kinds of shooters, or it could be a mix of both?
Yeah, it's a mix of both. I mean, Ben Simmons, the thing I have a problem with is like, that whole video that surfaced on Instagram with him working with, I forget who the NBA player was, but he was like, "Oh, your jump shot looks good. You should shoot more." He's like, "Yeah, Orlando."
Was that D Wade? I think
No, it was like
that was D Wade.
I forget his name, but
Wasn't LeBron either. No.
no, it wasn't a big name guy, but I think it was Tony Snell, matter of fact. But um, saying, "Oh yeah, Orlando," like Orlando came around and he had what 1-3, I think.
He
and
had
that's
one,
it.
I think. Yeah,
Did he have one in the regular season or just that one in the scrimmage?
scrimmages.
Yeah, it was in the scrimmage, and that's where it's a problem. Like I feel like if you're putting it out there saying, "Yeah, I'm gonna hit shots in Orlando," like you basically record yourself saying that you're gonna do something, and for you to not come out and do it, that's a problem. You know,
That's
and
false advertising. Yeah.
yeah, you're false advertising at that point, and it's like that's where everybody says, "Oh, trade Simmons, he's da da da." That's where all that comes in. So, and also it doesn't help too that he saw a sports psychologist for his solely for his jump shot. So not only was it a waste of our like hopes, but it was also a waste of the psychologist's time, like taking the time to help him get comfortable with shooting.
So, Dewan, I gotta ask you. You made a valid point. He wasted a lot of people's time with that, and false advertised. Zach put that down as another thing that false advertised me and a whole bunch of other people. Put that down right next to Reese Hoskins being a perennial MVP candidate. MLB the Show, I want my money back for that. But Dewan, I gotta ask you, if you were to, and I'm against trading either one of these guys, but if you had to trade Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid, first of all, who are you getting rid of, and who would you want back in return?
Um, I mean, I love them both. I like what they do for the Sixers, but I would trade Simmons because, for one, it's kind of a point guard driven league, so it'd be easier to find a replacement for him. Whereas to Joel, like he's a dominant center, like I've said before, and like there's some good centers in the league, but it's kind of hard to find one that'll stay with you for a couple years and produce at a high level. So in return, I'd probably want somebody like maybe like Bradley Beal, Zach Levine, or someone that can basically check all the boxes in terms of shooting, scoring, from all ways, defending,
All the way,
passing, all
yeah.
that. Yeah. Simmons could do that. All he needs to do is just shoot. It doesn't even have to be 3-pointers or whatever. Just a jump shot. It's cool
Gavin
little
says
mid
mid
range.
ranges.
Yeah, mid range is like that's from 10 to 15 feet out. Like that's cool. 'Cause that's what a lot of people tend to kind of, you know, get on him is like, oh, he needs to shoot threes. He needs to shoot threes. It's not just threes. Like I know threes is important in today's NBA, but just a smooth jumper could add as much as like 6 to 8 points to his average.
Definitely nice. He's kicked the ball out a lot during times when he's driving and has an open look. That can be a mix with him, a mix of coaching, because Brett Brown's a big pass guy. But we'll get to the coaching in just a minute. But it's Game 7, Scotiabank Arena, 4.3 seconds left on the clock. We know what happens. Second after that, I mean, you go ahead on and you see the Raptors go on to win the NBA Finals. So it looks a little less painful after all that you took the best team in the league to 7 games to the last second and a improbable buzzer beater. Fire Brett Brown has been said since the end of the gentleman's sweep from the Celtics. It was hard to say from an emotional standpoint that you just went head-to-head with the soon-to-be champions in Game 7. You only lost by an improbable buzzer beater. You had 2 shot clock violations coming out of timeouts in the end of that game. But as I digress, he came back this year, and they made a lot of moves in this offseason. What do you think was the thought process in that front office? How did you feel about I'm referring to like Al Horford and letting JJ and Jimmy go. What do you think really went wrong in this offseason?
I felt like Elton Brand was pressured to sign somebody. After Jimmy Butler left us, unfortunately, to go to Miami. I felt Elton Brand was like peer pressured into giving Tobias that ridiculous deal that he's not really worth that much for. And same with Al Horford as well. Like Al Horford, he went from killing us from being on Boston to, you know, not performing like how he was over here, and it just it having him and Embiid on the floor, it just clogs everything. Like, he doesn't really provide you with much, to be honest. And I don't really think that that was a good signing on Elton's end. And but it also doesn't help that Brett Brown's getting most of the blame, which to me I think is 60-40 or 50-50, like 60 Brett and then 40 Elton, because Elton's the one that's signing the dude. and it doesn't help that you're not giving Brett good pieces to work with to make it happen.
Well, the one I got a question right there. Look, you say Brett Brown didn't have good pieces. It's unfair. Ellen Brand didn't give him a good pieces for this year, which is everybody can make the argument for that. But what about last year? You had Jimmy Butler, you had Tobias Harris, you had Boban Marjanovic, you had Joel Embiid, you had Ben Simmons,
You
you
said
had
it's
Jaden
Boban on
Harris.
that list of stars.
Well, not now on the list of stars, but people listen,
He has
listen.
one of the
You-
highest efficiency ratings in the league, but his minutes are not there.
But listen, but he was a nice center coming off the bench. He was just discovering a mid range shot when he was here. Zach and Duane, I know you guys remember that when he started shooting mid range shots, he didn't know he could do it at time. You had a Landry Shaman, but you packaged with Tobias Harris. Honestly, if it is in the reports are true, if Ellen Brand had to choose between Jimmy Butler and Brett Brown, and you chose Brett Brown over Jimmy Butler, I gotta look at you and be like, why? Why is that? But the one, back to my original question for you is, you make an argument for this year, but what about last year?
I know last year I agree with you 100%. I feel like Brett should have gotten fired last year, but this year is kind of like, he kind of got the short end of the stick, and I feel like Ellen should have gotten more so of the blame. But, I give Brett credit for sticking with us for the last 7 years through the 102 players he's coached, which is insane,
All the
and
losses,
yeah, all the losses and
the whole
terrible
tank.
management with the Colangelos coming in and destroying what Hinkie planned out for us. And it was just a big mess that, he dealt with, and I give him credit for it.
Definitely. And so, I mean, it's a good point there. And that's kind of the question that I wanted to shift to as we move now looking forward to upcoming. But first, overall, you kind of did touch on that. But do you think it was the right decision? It was the right time for Brett Brown to be let go?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he did everything he could, and despite what people say, like, he stuck through it all, through the good and bad. But,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, Brett Brown too. I think it's one of those things, and I use this analogy a lot. I gotta find a new one. It was one of those relationships where it was going on for too long. You knew both sides were getting tired of each other, and nor did they like each other anymore. I mean, I'm including the fans and maybe some players of the team, even though Joel Embiid said that's my friend, but it's not supposed to be a friend, it's supposed to be a coach. And versus Brett Brown, it's one of the relationships where you gotta be like, hey, it's not working out. We just want to be friends. And what I mean by be friends is we want a new coach. That's what I view it as. I think as soon as the Sixers went to the playoffs, the one is that when they beat the Miami Heat in 5 games, and they turned around and lost to Boston in 5 games, I would have fired Brett Brown right there. I'm like, wait a minute, these guys are ready for big time. These guys are ready to make playoff runs and hopefully bring a championship pretty too soon. You're not the guy that can manage that. I would have got rid of him right then and there.
Definitely. And so, as far as moving forward, looking at the future here, last 12 minutes here of the show, who are some of your favorites? I've seen a lot listed, a lot of names out there, some that are interested, some that might not be, some that are a far stretch. But for coaching candidates for the Sixers, based on that, I mean, I guess you're going to stick to that bully ball mentality. You do have to get some shooters. We'll get to that in a minute. But who do you think are some good replacements possible for Brett Brown?
Basically anybody with, playoff experience, like Tyronn Lue, even though some say LeBron coached him more than Tyronn coached the team, but that's yeah. But basically anybody with good playoff experience, like maybe Mike Brown, Mark Jackson, those types of guys. But also just somebody that'll, you know, hold the players accountable and put that fire in them to really like achieve for like give them that drive to win a championship. And it's kind of like what Jimmy did. Like some people say he was an a-hole, this, that, and the third, but like at the end of the day, he just wanted a ring. He wanted everybody to match his energy so that way they can go out there and fight and produce at a high level. So I feel like if we bring a coach that brought that same energy, I think, we'll make a deep playoff run. as long as we have
So
the right pieces.
yeah. So my argument, one of my favorites is, or not, I don't want to say favorites, but I personally should look at. I like Jay Wright. I like Jay Wright. I don't know why. I think when I think of coaches, I think of people you haven't seen before. Chip Kelly did it for a year, then
First
arguably
year.
for a year, and then became trash. Doug Peterson did it for first year, even though he went 7-9 with rookie quarterback turnaround, and we all know the rest is history from there. New coaches bring new systems that no one's seen before. You need something fresh. We talked about Dewan. You talked about Tyronn Lue, Zach Meany. We talked about Alvin Gentry and Kenny Atkinson and Nate. And well, I don't want to say Nate McMillan because I don't want Nate McMillan here, but Nate McMillan. But I think you need to look at a new start, But you gotta get it right. I would love for Greg Popovich to come here if he leaves, but I think if Greg Popovich leaves, it will be the New York not Mets,
That's
Nets. Look, because no one wants to go to New York Knicks, all right? Because that's just not the ideal spot. But guys, do you guys see what I'm saying with the whole fresh start, new idea?
I get what you're saying, but I think that this team is past that point where you need some fancy, complicated system. The formula for this team is really simple. If Joel Embiid played like he did this year in previous playoff series, we probably would have been close to getting a ring by now. Remember, he had a few games where he was sick, or Marcus Gasol shut him down, where he was really struggling in that Raptors. He's also had a few dominant games. Remember, in Game 3, the favorite game, in my opinion, of the process. But I do like guys like Ty Lue in a way. But I think one problem with him is that he let an alpha like LeBron grab the reins. There's no alpha on the Sixers. I think if you had Jimmy Butler still, that Ty Lue would be the guy because Jimmy would be able to do some of the big things that he needed to. This team needs that. Tobias Harris, I thought, could have rose to the occasion this year, and apparently off the court, he was a very vocal leader, which is obviously a great thing. But on the court, someone's got to be that guy, and so we need a coach that will hold guys accountable. We'll have to see what happens. But those are my thoughts. I wouldn't mind if Jay Wright ended up being the coach here. He for sure has deep playoff experience with college. It's different, but we could see what happens if you could hold guys accountable. That's what I think is so important. If you hold your guys accountable, they have enough talent to really go out and do something, but you also need to surround them with some players, which is my next question. But any thoughts from you guys before I ask that one?
Nope.
So as far as that next question goes, either free agents this offseason or making some sort of trade, whether it be blockbuster or low key, who are some complementary pieces that you would want with Ben and Joel, assuming that you keep them both, which Elton Brand has made clear as his intentions?
The one person that I really, really want is Buddy Hield. I think he'd be the perfect substitute for, the shooting guard position. And, he'd help with shooting and also defense too. But it would be nice to have Devin Booker, but that would really come with a very heavy price. But, someone that can just knock down shots and play defense and do their role. I also like Trevor Ariza. I think he'd be a great fit here as well.
Well, also too, you gotta remember, guys, the Sixers never really had a true small forward in a long time. Dating back to can't believe I'm about to say this. Robert Covington was the last true small forward they had. I'm not a big fan of Robert Covington. Inconsistent. I don't need to get into that. But I last year, Dewan, you brought Devin Booker in. Last year would have been a time to get him. I think last year the Suns were at the point like you're not bringing us wins. But you're doing everything else but the wins. Last year, Devin Booker's price wasn't that much. Maybe you had to move like a first round pick, but now this year, if you want Devin Booker, it's going to be a first round pick plus a contract, plus give or take a star player and some younger players. You talk about Buddy Hield. I like Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield has the worst hand. When I mean by worst hand, I'm talking in coaching and Luke Walton. Okay, that guy's garbage and needs to go back to being
off the bench.
Exactly. He needs to go back to being an assistant coach. Guys like Zach LaVine. I like Zach LaVine, but we need shooters. Can Zach LaVine consistently shoot? That's the real question. Zach and Dewan, what about we talked about Devontae Graham? Make a trade for him. Dewan, that's your most improved player right there, even though he wasn't nominated for it. But you make that argue. if you don't get a blockbuster trade, let's get some role players.
Yeah, you don't need a superstar. You got two of them. You need role players that can consistently knock down shots, and then you have the spacing, and from there the team can be able to do itself. You need some good coaching though with accountability for Ben and Joel.
We also kind of should also follow what the Clippers are doing. Like I mentioned in the chat a couple of days ago, they have everything you need in a team. A great starting lineup and a pretty deep bench that could produce at a high rate. So I feel like if we could do that, bring in some good bench players to step up, then some of those problems that are present in the season, like in the beginning of the season, will kind of go away over time as they start to, gel up and stuff.
I agree. And Elton Brand, Zach and Dewan, you talk about Elton Brand should take some of the blame. I don't disagree with that, but he also brought in Alec Burks, who didn't really get more minutes than Raul Neto. And
that's more of a coaching thing.
Go ahead.
It's more of a coaching thing. I think that he should have gotten more minutes. We need a legitimate six-man, and that would help the team so much. The Celtics have Marcus Smart, Lou Will, obviously, Dennis Schroeder. I mean, all these guys who have six men, they're doing well. The bench helps.
Meanwhile, our bench looks pathetic and arguably as bad as the Knicks. But I got to address this real quick. Dewan, you were there when this happened. Don't compare the Sixers to the Knicks. Don't do that. Do not do that. They're not like the Knicks, all right? The Knicks are horrible. They are borderline garbage, all right? Don't compare the Sixers to the Knicks. Dewan, come on now.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Nowhere near the Knicks.
Hopefully we're continuing to trend on the way up. But from there, Dewan, thanks so much for joining us today. We had a great time talking with you. We're hoping that next year the Sixers are going to have an opportunity to bounce back. Gavin, anything else from you?
Yeah, real quick, put this YouTube comment up on the screen real quick. It's a funny inside joke for my.
You want the most recent one shown
yeah,
on?
All right. Zach, the truth meaning behind that one is there's a rapper from the 90s, right? Named Special Ed. And he has the same exact haircut, everything like Dewan. So when my family first met Dewan, they're like, oh, Special Ed. And that's been his nickname forever. So it's good to see it still coming on here. Thank you.
Album's on the way, by the way, so stay tuned.
Special Ed the Magnificent. All right, Dewan. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks so much, man. We'll have you on again soon. Definitely. Well, no, I mean, great week, Gavin. Great show. Again, please, everyone, stay tuned. We're going to be figuring out this weekend what we can figure out as far as our schedules go. We're going to talk about it. Gavin, let's figure tomorrow. We'll talk about that, take care of that. But stay up to date with us. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter. Again, yesterday's show and the beginning of the today's show. Please watch it. We're doing whatever we can, making sure that we can ensure equality because everyone should have the same opportunity no matter what in their life to achieve success. And that's something that we're working hard to do through good decisions, but also just making it a little bit more simple, giving equality and giving opportunity. Gavin, anything else from you as we wrap up this week's edition? This is week 12, right?
Just because basketball is being played tomorrow, Zach, that's breaking news. They're playing basketball tomorrow. NBA's pick up tomorrow. Just because sports may be going back to being played, don't y'all forget what's really going on. All right? Don't forget we have a president that doesn't care, would rather not help us. We have district attorneys and governors who and Zach that don't do their job or governors that don't push the issue, and we have district attorneys that don't do the job. So just remember that, guys, November 3rd is coming. November 3rd is coming. Let's get right.
If there's people that voted against that police reform bill, if there's people that didn't give an explanation that was good enough, maybe there were some that voted against it but wanted to compromise but never got the opportunity. We got people, either Pennsylvania, if our representatives, depending on what they voted on, our senators, vote them out. That's one of the ways to help. No matter what happens in this election, no matter who wins, no matter what happens in this election, no matter who wins, and I'll say this the day of and the day after, depending on no matter what the results are, don't give up. It's not all or nothing. Again, the presidency, I think the power of the president overestimated. It shouldn't be underestimated. That's for sure. Don't underestimate the power of that. I know that's the focal point, but me personally, keep it local at first. I understand the top. I understand the king. Want to make sure that we're all aligned. But don't lose hope, no matter what. Don't lose hope. Don't lose faith. Don't let the media control you. Seek out facts for your own. Learn the information, and let's fight for justice because this is getting ridiculous. We got to keep it going. It's not getting ridiculous. It's been ridiculous, but now it's getting exposed.
And all the governors, right, that saw this man write this bill,
All the senators that didn't sign it.
all the senators, y'all can make a call and ask them, and everybody can get behind them.
Yeah, let's get phone numbers. We'll figure it out.
November 3rd, Zach. I'm only 17. Let's get right. Let's do it. Let's get right. Go out there. Let's go get these polls. The virus isn't that bad. Where y'all can put your mask. Gonna go stand outside. Let's go get right.
No doubt. Well, everyone, thanks so much for joining us this week, and have a great weekend.
If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't. In addition, hit that bell icon and set it to all to get reminded of when we go live and when we post excerpts of our videos.